had an experience with my dog that had me thinking about about you. And I thought I was gonna hop on here and share a little bit of a piece on the art of resisting. The art of resisting. A little backstory. So we live in the country, and that means that my dog that was born and bred in the suburbs and then the city has all this land that he can run around. However, he doesn't really grasp the knowledge that there are boundaries. That just because there's plenty of land doesn't mean that it's all for you or safe for you. So we are doing some discipline work with him on that because he would willfully um, resist coming back home when he was called. Why? Because he wanted to stay out. It was more fun, right? You've got animals, different scents. You have places to go, things to sniff. Why would you come home where it's structured and it's boring and you don't have access to the things you adore? And so, what I realized today when I was out with him taking a walk was that I could see him periodically look up and out yonder to the areas where, when he was really being bad, he would just kind of like take off and go there. And technically, he could if he wanted to. However, you could see that tension where like he looked like he wanted to go, but then seemed to remember something. So, he'd look back at me and then just kind of play around his own turf. And then a little while later, he would look up and look out into the distance, want to go run out there, and you could see that little play and not do it. So eventually, we had a good walk and he had a good run around. And he did that all within the boundaries that we have been training him to obey. And when it was time to come inside, I called his name, and again, you could see that today he was just really in that mood where if it were another day, in yesteryears, he would have just like completely defied. He's like one stubborn Shih Tzu, And what's remarkable about this is that interplay, that struggle that I saw with him, it really made me think about my clients and the people that I speak with every day, especially now because I am doing a free Clarity Finder session with people who have not been introduced to my work to speak with me for an hour. And so I'm speaking with many different women. And what I see is that very interesting tension between resisting, wanting to go out into the area that is, more playful, wider, and not wanting to come home to structure, to obedience, to obeying, right? And listening and all the things that may feel a little bit constricting. So how does this work out? Well, this is how it works out in your business and in money. When I think about, when you think about, like when I think about money, for me, it's not a high value, and it's not a high value for a lot of my clients. And what this means is that for some people, they're motivated when they think, man, I need $5,000 so that I can pay my rent, so that I can live well. That motivates them. Now, for those who are like me, who are not, money is not a high value, instead of motivating, what this does is that exact thought demotivates. That exact thought becomes its own negative feedback loop, right? It becomes, I have to make $5,000. I have to pay my rent. I have to. So if you see how that works, where you can have this singular thought that either motivates you or deflates you. And just for your knowledge, anything that motivates you and really motivates you into action is a high value. That is actually what you need to learn about yourself so that you know what motivates you. And, sometimes you just accept what society says should be a motivating factor, like food on your table, you know. Those are things which drive some people. Some people it doesn't. And it's not that there's anything wrong with them, it's that they have a different way of seeing that word, that term, that meaning that assigns a different value to it. Now, if this is the case, which it is with most of my clients and the people that I got to speak with in my strategy, in my clarity finder sessions, was that they were not motivated to to get the money part, right? So some of my clients were not motivated to get the money part, even though they needed it, right? There were some of my clients who were like, I know I'm behind. I know I owe this. I know I need to do that, but I just can't. I can't go on the phone, Julia, because I don't even know who the heck I'm calling. And then when I do know, I don't know what the heck I'm saying. And then when I do, I don't know how to sell. Like, so lots of barriers, right? Just all the way. Well, that is a key indicator of something here. Now, in the business world, and a lot of people have been hurt in the past where they've been told or felt like you're being lazy at that moment. Um, well, the truth is, the goal is not motivating to you. In fact, all you see is the pain, not the gain. And that in itself is information. It should tell you that that is not motivating to you. What is? Something else needs to be motivating, something with the same truth, right? So, coming back to the example of my dog, whereas I was training him to come to me whenever, or my husband, or any one of our household members, so myself and my husband, whenever we call him, that he comes to us. My dog is not motivated by that. He's motivated by running out in the fields and just having a really good time. So, what is it that we could give him that would have a stronger, that would be a higher value for my dog in this instance? And how is it that we were able to go out to play and that he was very okay, and that you could see him carefully consider the options before making the right decision? Well, I'll tell you, it is consequences. So if you're not motivated by money, if you're not motivated by what you need to do to make money, to create money, right? If you're not motivated enough to jump into it, that's just not your thing, and you can't lie about it. Well, then what you have to see are the consequences, and the consequences are not good. The consequences are either that you're going to be corrected through pain, and that's how you're going to grow up, or that you will continue in that way and suffer worse. Going back to the example of my dog, if he was not if 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 he was not uh, corrected every time he disobeyed, what would happen? Well, then he would run out into the middle of the road when there's an approaching car, or perhaps go out seeking the scent of an animal and turns out that he puts himself in danger. He would not be a pleasure to be with, because all people would be thinking about is, we need to tie him up, we need to look over him, we need to keep watch, which means that even any opportunity to be trusted, to be left with someone else, would be difficult. You see, it's very limiting. It's a very limiting world. That those would have been his consequences. So in your case, if you're not doing the work because you're not motivated and you honestly just can't be bothered, well, understand that sooner or later the consequences are going to catch up with you. And if you remember the pain of the consequences, because this is something chronic, this is a pattern this is something that you get yourself into over and again. This is a cycle for you. This is a cycle for you. If you remember the pain of being in the situation and understand that that is your consequence, that alone should move you to action. That alone should move you to action. What this means is, if you want to see money in your bank account next month, well, you need to do things today, whether you feel like it or not, unless you don't want money in your bank account. So when you reframe the situations for you, look at what isn't motivating you, and then just turn over to the other side, right? Sometimes inspiration doesn't work. And sometimes we spoil ourselves by really relying on our self motivational techniques, when in actuality, A lot of what is required to achieve goals is simple, mundane, boring work. When you ask yourself, who do I reach, who how can I call, how do I, it means that you're now indulging in thinking about what you have to do, and that is still not doing anything. What you're supposed to do is just sit down and start. Now, a lot of people will say, well, start where? And that's where you get the extra guidance and you get the support and you get a plan, um, which uh, if you're interested in speaking with me more about that, please leave me a message. um, DM me, I'll get back in touch with you. Now, this is for the ones who have a plan, or they know what to do, or they know what they should do, because you are smart. You are smart people. You want to cross over to successful and smart? Let the consequences create your boundaries. Now, you're used to using your imagination to create your boundaries, or rather to get rid of your boundaries. In this instance, let your consequences create your boundaries. Let the consequences of inaction tell you what you can look forward to. And if you don't like that, then do something about it. But don't think about it. Do.